This is hopefully the first of a small series of videos. We're going to be talking about how to get the best out of My Lyric Book. We've been selling the app for about 15 years now. It's been around a long time. It started on iPad 1. And it's just a great way of handling lyrics and scores for live performance. I think it is. So one of the big questions that people get stuck on is really just the very first steps. How do I get my lyrics onto iPad? And so got an iPad set up here. It's an iPad Air 2. These are a great device for running the app on, because although they're obsolete technically, they're modern enough that they're still nice and quick, very reliable and cheap. So if you've got an expensive iPad at home, go out and buy a $50 second-hand iPad Air 2. It's locked at iPad OS 15, which is actually pretty good. You're not going to get the latest features, but it does mean as a developer I'm probably going to be able to support the app until at least 2027, maybe 2028 on the iPad Air 2. So let's assume we've got let's fire up the app and see what we got. So when we fire it up, I get a list of all my songs which I've got loaded up on this iPad. But where you're likely to get stuck is you ain't got any of these. So how do we get some on? Well, there's a bunch of different ways. Absolutely the easiest way is to hook your iPad up to a computer. So I've got my iPad hooked up to my Mac using a lightning cable. And when I do, it appears on the sidebar of my Finder here as iPad Air 2, or whatever you happen to have called it. Now, you might not get that if it doesn't appear there. In Finder Settings sidebar, there's an option here to show CDs, DVDs, and iOS devices. If I turn that off, hey, look, it's gone. If I tick it, it's back. So once you get that and you select on it, we get this screen. Those of you who've been around a bit longer might recognize this screen. It's what we used to get inside iTunes. About 5 years ago, Apple moved it from being inside iTunes, which was a music app, into the Finder, which really makes more sense now that the iPad, this screen was originally developed for iPods sort of 20 years ago when the iPod was just a music device. Now that it's a complete general purpose device iPad, it makes much more sense in the Finder. If you're working on PC, on the Windows, you'll find this exact same screen inside iTunes, obviously because they haven't been able to move it out, because iTunes is kind of the only thing they have. So I've got a whole load of stuff here. You want to add stuff. I said there's a bunch of different ways you can do that, but by far the easiest is to hook this up. And so here I've got my menus, and if I select files, and here I get a list of some of the apps that are installed on my device. Well, these are all the devices, all the apps on my device which are prepared to talk to iTunes and share files with it. I'm interested in My Lyric Book, so I'm just going to open it up, and here I see, here's all my files that I've listed that I have on my device. In fact, what we'll see is that for each song, we typically have a file. We also have these dict files. Dict files are our internal files that we use on Lyric Book. Just ignore them. If you delete them, you'll lose a little bit of metadata. It doesn't matter. Somewhere down here, there's also a folder called set lists. This is where Lyric Book keeps my set lists. Again, just ignore it. What we're really interested in is, in my case, all of these PDF files. All of these PDF files correspond to the songs that I've got on my device. So if I want to add a song to my device, all I need to do is find some files. So here's some lyrics. These are RTFs. I really like RTFs for plain text files. They've got a moderate amount of formatting. but they are really light to work with. If you're on a Mac, the easiest way is just use TextEdit, and you can it'll just save RTFs for you. If you're on Windows, you can use Word and export as RTF. Alternatively, you can export Word files straight in, or you can export as PDFs. I'll talk about PDFs in a second. But once we've got the file, all I need to do is just pick my song, say Ain't No Love in the Heart of Eddie, Whitesnake Classic, drop it in, and instantly we can see it appears in the song list. So now if I select it, you can see it's instantly there. We don't have to. We're not restricted to selecting one. I can drag a whole bunch in, and we'll see that now immediately it's spotted that this is a duplicate. Do I want to replace it? Yes. Bang, there we go. All these songs are now loaded up. All right. Another big question is, how do I delete them? So while I'm here, I can very easily delete them. I just have to sort of the easiest way to delete them is I can right click and just say, hey look, delete, and it'll disappear. There we go. Ain't taking about low RTF, delete. Alternatively, we can delete on the iPad. By default, you can't delete songs on the iPad. This is a design decision because the last thing you want to be doing at a gig is blind, in the dark, lights in your eyes, you press the wrong button and suddenly your lyrics disappear. That would be terrible. If you do want to delete songs, we need to go to settings, and down here, and oops, not my XR. XR is great, we love XR, but we got my lyric book. We've got to see there's a whole load of settings for my lyric book. I'm not going to talk through all of them today. Hopefully I'll get back to them in a future video. But the middle one is somewhere in here. So allow song deletion. Yes, I want to be able to delete songs in the app. Now if I go back to the app, we'll see there's an edit button at the top. Edit. And now I can either go through and minus these. Oh yeah. Yeah. And delete them. Now, personally, I like to have that off because I tend not to delete. If I tend not to delete them, and I certainly don't want to be in here. So I'm going to go back and just turn that off. Allow song deletion. There we go, and we can see instantly that edit menu option, that edit menu option up here is now gone. So my typical workflow is that I'm going to, for each project that I'm going to have, I'm going to have I'm going to have a folder. I typically personally I use it a lot of PDFs which I've generated in MuseScore. MuseScore is great. So I work on my MuseScore and I have a folder called PDF which has got all my PDFs in. And then I tend to lose track of which ones I've edited. What tends to happen is, at a rehearsal, I'll spot something I want and make a change to in the PDF. So at some point in the week, I'll come back, I'll make a few edits to some of the songs, I'll fix them, and then I'll just drag them all across. And it's going to, hey, do I want to replace them? Yeah, sure, because this is my master copy. And so if I bring up a song, there's my PDFs, all good to go. Once you've got your songs on there, all we have to, we can see them all in a list. All we need to do is you can bring them up, scroll through them, and we're good to go. So next time around, I'll talk about set lists, where we can start organizing those songs into lists. Until then, thanks for watching.